The Nintendo Switch 2 Direct will go down in history as one of the single best Directs of all time, not only showing off the system itself, but an absolutely crazy roster of first and third party titles. In terms of The Legend of Zelda, not only is the Wind Waker sailing onto the Nintendo Switch Online's GameCube emulator, but we're getting remastered versions of both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, not only with a higher resolution and frame rate, but a ton of additional features too. I'll cover these remasters in another video, because today we're talking about the other Zelda reveal in this Direct, Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment. Of course, this is a successor to Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, which launched back in 2020. As its name suggests, the game showed the story of the Great Calamity, how Hyrule fell against the Calamity Ganon 100 years before Breath of the Wild. Kind of. While Age of Calamity at first seemed to be the story leading into Breath of the Wild, it instead spun off on its own tangent. The game shows a time-travelling Sheikah bot named Terrako travel to a time shortly before the Calamity, and change the course of history, eventually leading to an ending where Hyrule manages to defeat Ganon and avoid a century of ruin. Now, Hyrule Warriors is back with Age of Imprisonment, which will tell the story of the Imprisoning War, the ancient conflict against Ganondorf that happened shortly after the founding of this Kingdom of Hyrule, in the distant, distant past. It was to this era that Princess Zelda was transported at the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom, where she meets Hyrule's first king, Raru, and his queen, Sonia. In this ancient time, Zelda becomes a central figure in the war against the Demon King, Ganondorf, eventually sacrificing herself to carry the Master Sword back to the future and into Link's hands. This is a game reveal that came completely out of left field, but it makes so much sense. Let's begin by going through the trailer and discussing what was shown before we analyse the game as a whole at the end. The trailer begins with shots of the murals found deep below Hyrule Castle, the same ones Link and Zelda discover at the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom. These tell the story of the Imprisoning War. It begins with one of the Zonai, a race of powerful magic users descending from the heavens to the land that would become Hyrule. With them, they brought the Secret Stones, artifacts which could amplify the abilities of their bearers. One Zonai, named Raru, married a Hylian priestess named Sonia, and the pair went on to found the Kingdom of Hyrule and rule as its first king and queen. However, the early kingdom was thrown into turmoil when Ganondorf, king of the Gerudo tribe, killed Queen Sonia and took her secret stone for himself. With this, he transformed into the Demon King, a dark lord whose ambition threatened to destroy Hyrule. Though it isn't shown in this trailer, the Imprisoning War ended with a climactic showdown in the Temple of Light, a subterranean shrine directly under the location where Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom's Hyrule Castle would eventually be built. Though he was faced with an alliance of sages, each armed with a secret stone and led by King Raru himself, Ganondorf proved to be too powerful to defeat. Raru was left with no choice. To stop Ganondorf, he gave up his life, using his power of light to create a seal that would hold the Demon King for thousands of years. At the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom, this is why Link and Zelda discover Ganondorf here. He has remained in this forgotten place ever since, still held in place by Raru's spirit. Ganondorf's imprisonment is where the Imprisoning War got its name. After the shots of the murals, the Age of Imprisonment trailer shows Zelda looking down at a secret stone. This is the stone which fell from Raru's spirit's hand at the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom, a stone which amplified the princess's latent power to control time, allowing her to survive a fatal fall by travelling to the distant past. Zelda closes her fist, then runs to catch up with Raru and Sonia, who turn and begin to walk towards two huge stone pillars. We can see a large structure in the distance, the Hyrule Castle of this era. We only get a glimpse of this era's Hyrule Castle in Tears of the Kingdom's Memories, where we can see that it is positioned here on the Great Plateau. This places this shot around here, just north of the Shrine of Resurrection, where Link will begin his journey in Breath of the Wild, thousands of years later. The next clip is a direct match with Tears of the Kingdom's very first memory, when Zelda wakes up in the past and meets with Raru and Sonia. This memory ends just as Zelda realizes where, or rather when, she is, but this trailer appears to show additional dialogue from this meeting.
Perhaps you truly have traveled back in time.
It's then followed by, presumably, what comes directly afterwards, Zelda following Raru and Sonia as they head back towards Hyrule Castle. The camera pans back, and the player appears to gain control of Zelda here, which means it's very possible that we'll be able to play through Zelda's time in the distant past, filling in the gaps between the memories. Speaking of this, next we see Zelda's reaction to Raru's Hyrule Castle. Again, we only saw a tiny glimpse of its exterior during Tears of the Kingdom's Memories, but we did see its interior multiple times, like in the scene where Ganondorf swears fealty to Raru, and the courtyard where Ganondorf kills Sonia. Concept art for the game gives us a better look at its exterior, and here it is in all its glory in Age of Imprisonment. We can even see the balcony where Ganondorf will ascend to the Demon King here. There's also this strange structure visible in the distance. I might be wrong here, but I don't think this matches any of the Zonai structures seen in Tears of the Kingdom. But either way, it shows that Raru's kingdom was much more extensive than how it might have seemed from its limited screen time in Tears of the Kingdom. The trailer then cuts to black, with the text, "The story leading into Tears of the Kingdom." I'll discuss more of the implications of this line at the end, but for now, it's best to take it literally. This is the story that leads into Tears of the Kingdom, the story we only got glimpses of in Zelda's Memories. We see Raru armed with an awesome looking spear under a blood-red sky. His spear is a Zonite spear, like those Link can find in Tears of the Kingdom, but with a yellow energy blade, showing that this is Raru's own magic, the pure power of light. As the camera pans, we can see some ruined fortifications and burning trees, then a gigantic army of Ganondorf's minions. The Blood Moon rages above the horizon, showing that this is set after Ganondorf has obtained the Secret Stone and transformed, and used his newfound power to summon an army. We see Raru take on Ganondorf's minions, in a combat sequence like you'd expect from a Hyrule Warriors game. First, he uses a sweep attack before slamming his spear into the ground, causing an explosion of golden light. And next, in an incredibly cool move, Raru binds the spear to his hand using Ultra Hand, then throws it in an arc before pulling it back to himself. Link's abilities in Tears of the Kingdom are, of course, Zonai powers, granted to him by Raru's arm, so I can't wait to see them used fully by their original wielder. After this is a shot of Ganondorf, smiling, with his head resting on his fist. Not only is this an entirely new cutscene, it's incredibly reminiscent of Ganondorf in Twilight Princess, who rests his head in the same way. Next is Minoru, Raru's sister and the Sage of Spirit, riding away from a Phrox in the depths. She's holding a Zonite spear like Raru, and appears to be sat on a small wheel, which serves as a little bike. To fight the Frox, she summons a construct and uses it, along with Zonai rockets, to deal damage. In fact, this construct appears to be the very same as the seized construct fought as a boss in the Spirit Temple, which Minoru claims to have built long ago. A bit like Impa in Age of Calamity, I'd expect Minoru to fight using many different Zonai devices, something with which she was known to be extremely proficient. There's then a shot of Raru's closed fist, again with the ominous red of the blood moon in the background, before we finally see Zelda in action, fighting a Lynel no less. Like Raru and Minoru, she's armed with a Zonite weapon, this time a Zonite sword, and like Raru, it seems to be powered by her own magic. She telekinetically swings the sword around in multiple golden arcs, before using recall to rewind time and repeat the attack pattern in reverse, before putting both hands forward and unleashing a torrent of golden light. This attack sequence clearly shows her using her time powers, which are magnified by her secret stone, but we also know that Zelda inherited Raru's power of light too, so perhaps we're seeing both elements used by the princess in her moveset. Interestingly, the Lynel appears to wield a kind of ancient Zonai weapon we haven't seen before, perhaps taken from a fallen warrior from this kingdom. Next is a shot of the 7 sages in all of their glory, standing in what might be the entrance of the Forgotten Temple, where Raru gave them their secret stones. The sages are Raru, Minoru, and Zelda, but also are Rito, Gerudo, Zora, and Goron. Tears of the Kingdom never reveals the names of these sages. Hopefully, Age of Imprisonment reveals their names, and tells us more about these ancient sages. Finally, we see Zelda and Raru fighting together. Near to what appears to be Hyrule Castle, the pair charge up and attack, before we see their hands clap together, and an explosion of light. Curiously, we can see Zelda and Raru standing together in the distance, while their hands come together close to the screen. I'd wager that this is some sort of combination attack that can be performed by 2 different characters at the same time, and what we're seeing with the hands is the animation that will play when it occurs. A core theme of Tears of the Kingdom's development was hands, and bringing people together. So it wouldn't surprise me if this is carried over to Age of Imprisonment too, and combining characters for powerful attacks would be a central mechanic. After this, we see the game's logo, complete with the mural image of the Demon King Ganondorf behind it. Hyrule Warriors, Age of Imprisonment. This is absolutely wild. One of my bigger criticisms with Tears of the Kingdom was that we didn't get to see enough of the Imprisoning War, of Raru's kingdom and Zelda's journey in the distant past. Now, though, it appears that we'll get to play through it, to fight the Imprisoning War, and see Raru's Hyrule through Zelda's eyes. To many people, Age of Calamity's alternate timeline was something of a disappointment. Before release, it seemed like this really could be the story of the Great Calamity. A tragedy, a game where Hyrule loses against an insurmountable foe. However, the language used to describe the game never confirmed this. The trailer description reads, "A new story set 100 years before The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild." However, with Age of Imprisonment, the trailer itself claims that this is the story leading into Tears of the Kingdom. Not a story, but the story. Obviously, this might still not be the case. Age of Imprisonment might still decide to do its own thing, and tell a story that is different to the Imprisoning War we know. But the crucial point is, it doesn't have to. While disappointing, it's understandable that Age of Calamity tells a different story to the actual backstory of Breath of the Wild. Because, like I said, it's a tragedy. Hyrule is destroyed incredibly quickly, before it had a proper chance to defend itself. But the Imprisoning War is different. It ends with a Hyrule victory, albeit a Pyrrhic one. This game can still end with a climactic battle against Ganondorf in which Raru will sacrifice himself, and have the room for any number of massive scale battles against his forces before this. At the risk of getting my hopes up, I really do think this might be the actual Imprisoning War. But what do you think? Are you excited about Age of Imprisonment? If so, what do you want to see most about this ancient war? Let me know in the comments. If you liked this video, leave a like, or subscribe if you haven't already for more Zelda content. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.